Hi, hello, how are you? Welcome to yet another episode of the IHNDY series. This place might be familiar with you. Sorry for the poor choice of venue, the second venue in the same season, but mtatuzamea kidogo. Anyway, we felt it is important to talk about this topic, especially with the same person who we feel has been endowed with the gift of talking about these issues. And so we live in a world where individualism is taking over. And people say it is because of Jesus Christ. 1, 2, 3, 4. People say it's because they want to actualize their personal growth. But then upon further investigations, you'll find that it's actually due to broken relationships and unforgiveness and unreconciled relationships. Today we talk about people say it's because of Jesus. People claim it's because they want to grow themselves, into personal growth. But then upon further investigations, you'll find that it's actually because of unreconciled friendships, unreconciled relationships, and unforgiveness. We are here to talk about that and how we can grow around that. As usual, we learn, we grow. Mr. Peter Simiu,
yes.
Welcome.
Thank you so much.
Karibu sana. I'm very happy to have you here for the second time in the same season.
Thank you very much.
The first one we did, people were really appreciative about it, and we feel it's important to ongea tena about some other topic. So tell us, looking at the country where we are right now and the societies we live in, kuna ubinafsi mingi, there's a lot of individualism. Somebody tells you that, you mind your business, I mind mine, you stay on your lane, I stay on mine, and we grow. There's even a song, Ka uko sawa, mi niko sawa. I don't know if you've heard about it. Like, manze, if you're okay, that's fine. That's up to you. Me, I'm also okay.
Yeah.
Do you feel these relationships, they play a contributing factor to the societal organization in our society?
Relationships, I would say that they are very important. Because as human beings, we are actually meant to live in the context of others. And even when you talk about growth, when you talk about success, whatever you call it, all these things operate within a lived context in the life of others. So your success is only important so long as it has an impact in the society and on the other person. But then relationships will always brush shoulders, okay? When you want to do, or when you want to acquire, or you want to achieve what you want, sometimes on the way you will have to brush shoulders with the others. And this is very natural because of our endowment. This is a biological, something that is in our DNA. The way I think, the way you think, what I prefer, and your preferences are very different. So how I go for my preferences could be in contradiction to how you go for your preferences. And so at the end of the day, we'll brush shoulders. So in that case, the relationships are at risk. Okay? So in a single word, I can actually say relationships are very, very important. And in success, there is nothing you'll ever mention minus relationships. They are very important. Yeah.
Now, in the history of this country, one tragic incident happened in 2007 and 2008, where I think it's one of the most ugliest scenarios in this country. Yes. The post-election violence, and people were divided against each other, especially on grounds of political ideologies and tribes. It reached a point whereby you could not just introduce yourself as Peter. They'll ask you, what's your second name? And they're not asking out, they're not inquiring out of curiosity, but they want to know where they can place you.
Sure, yeah.
You go to an interview, you introduce yourself, I'm called Samuel, let's say Karanja, and they're like, okay, sasa huyu ni wetu. Somebody goes the other side, is called George Omondi. Said, huyu kidogo hapana. And I really thank the country that they came with this campaign of Tribe Kenya. Yeah. That was the onset of these bracelets, these beads. Yeah. And people have really taken a lot of effort to undo that. People have really taken a lot of effort to forgive the people who felt they wronged them. Why do you feel forgiveness is really important in our society?
Thank you for the question. Actually, it's a very good question. and is down to earth. It is a question that really touches the core of our existence. And just before I respond to your question, you know, you began from a national level, okay, as Kenya, which is, of course, it's good because it's a concrete example of what happened, the reality that we are living with. But then even begin from the families, you know, we have an apostolate on the African Bible on the ground at the foot of Mount Kenya, Nanyuki. And I get to interact with people young and old. And when they give you the stories, you see how families are broken. You see how children do not match with their parents. You see how the parents cannot match with the children. And you see how the couples are living in the same house, probably sharing the same bed, but they live like neighbors, okay? And this is something funny, but actually it's something that is happening. So this, it has to do with the broken relationships, okay? And if we want really to heal our families, if we really want to heal our country, there is no method that will be able to be effective if it does not add the concept of forgiveness in it. Okay? And so you ask the question, why is it important that we should forgive? I believe that forgiveness has got 4 roles in our lives.
Forgiveness has 4 roles in our lives.
Yeah, in our lives. And the first one is that forgiveness sets people free.
Forgiveness sets people free. Okay, how's that?
Yeah. Let me give an example. It's just a story, right? It's not a story, but it's something that happened.
Okay. So you're saying forgiveness has 4 roles?
Yes, forgiveness has 4 roles. That the first one is that forgiveness sets people free.
Forgiveness sets people free.
Yeah.
How's that?
An example I can give is that, you know, what we are saying here is that if we have an issue between me and you, and that issue is unsettled, our conscience are always prisoners. Okay? Take this example of what happened between me and my sister. We were left at home, and my sister is older than me, and she was told to cook food for us. In this context, it's ugali. Okay? And then she cooked something like porridge. It's not porridge, it's not ugali. So you cannot eat, you cannot drink. And she told me, let me hear you telling mom, because alimwaga, okay? Let me hear you telling mom. I said, no, I will not tell mom. So when mom came in the evening, we were eating and she kept looking at me so that I don't say.
Okay.
And I said, you see, I am good. I have not said. And mom said, okay, to say what? You see, I repeated the whole thing. Do you think I said? Of course I said.
You did.
But the point here is, the fact that she was looking at me and I was looking at me. She was curious that I should not say, but I wanted to prove that I am good.
Won't say it.
So our conscience were operating on that level. So likewise, if we have something wrong, if you want really to know that we are prisoners to each other, for example, is that I can hurt you I could have hurt you maybe, or I hurt you 5 years ago. 5 years ago is which year? 2016.
2016, yeah.
2016, isn't it? And I really inflicted pain on you, right? This is 2021 or 2021. So you could be having light moments with others. But the moment I come into the scene, your mood changes.
Yeah, kuna kitu kanakuja.
Isn't it? Because that pain becomes as if it has just happened now. Why? Because your mind is a prisoner. And the worst prison that you can ever bring upon yourself is the memory of the past hurts that you have. Because those memory hurts you more than it hurts the person who hurts you. You know, it's like you are having an acid in a container. This acid is supposed to be poured on another container or another object. So this acid, instead of kind of destroying the object on which it is poured, it destroys an object in which it is stored. Wow. So that pain kills you, it hurts you from within. Are we together? So you could say that, you see, as long as Peter hurt me, I will never forgive him. And the assumption is that if you don't forgive me and I hurt you, it is me, the person who hurts is the one who suffers. It is like you are telling me, let me take poison and then my neighbor will die. Okay? Because the one who takes poison is the one who dies. So equally, that pain hurts you more than the person you hold pain towards. Those memories. So it hurts you more than the other person. Now, setting you free, it means that when we settle issues, it does not now become, whatever I did, it does not become a criteria to judge me. Okay? When we meet, it's a new relationship. Or maybe you can also take an example of when you are walking on the road, you have to be very careful who is next to you. You are not free to express yourself because you don't know who is just next to you. If you can give an example of what happened in 2007, the example that you quoted earlier on. You see, today in our country, you don't just talk anyhowly.
Yeah, you have to mind your
you
words.
have to see who is around.
You don't just say angalia Mluya, angalia Mkisi, angalia Mkikuyu. No, you don't do
It
that.
reminds people of the pain that we had 2007. Because people lost life, others they are victims, others are now recovering. Others
Based
have
on
never...
tribes.
Yes. You see? And here, another example would be, even if you are praying, you know we are prayerful, right? But with that in mind, you come to pray, you can never be free.
No, you can't.
Because I believe there is
Leave alone even you come. What are you praying?
What are you praying?
With something in your
Something
heart.
in your
You know,
heart.
even the scripture is very clear.
Yes.
If you're bringing offerings there and you realize you've wronged your brother,
Yes.
achana nayo hapo. Go make peace, then come back.
And then come back. So forgiveness setting people free. In other words, it liberates us from that I can call historical pain. Okay? Instead of growing, it makes us prisoners of the past. You are consciously of the past, you are unaware of the opportunities in the present, and then eventually you enter your future unprepared. Okay? Because you live in the past. The second role of forgiveness is that forgiveness brings healing.
Forgiveness brings healing.
Yeah.
Okay, how is that?
And I'll say that whenever there is a disagreement, or whenever we hurt people, or whenever we brush shoulders, a number of things are affected in a relationship. The first one is communication. Okay? Between the two of us, if we have an unsettled issue, we cannot communicate to each other.
Yeah,
Communication is curtailed. Okay? If you want to talk to me, you will not talk to me physically. You are tempted to send a message.
Even sending a message is a bold move. I'll send somebody to tell you.
Yeah, you send somebody to tell me. But there is what we call emotional communication. Okay? When we are in the family and we have not settled the issues, you will realize that we are not emotionally connected. Because something could be happening to you, but actually you don't have that audacity to come and ask me, what is it that is happening? Because there is something that is hindering. So lack of forgiveness becomes like a barrier. It's like a wall. Yeah, that blocks communication to happen. Okay? I remember when we were just having a conversation, you told me of a couple. You remember?
Yeah. This famous story of this, this couple, they had issues. They had brushed their shoulders, so wakakasirikiana. So this gentleman was supposed to get to the airport before 5. So since he could not talk to the wife directly, he wrote a note and put it the side where the wife was sleeping. The note read, kindly wake me up at 4 because I need to catch my flight at 5.
Yes.
So this lady wakes up, she used to wake up once in a while during the night to, check around the house. Of course, it's the role of a man, but she used to do that. Yes. So she wakes up, finds this note, and she reads it. Kindly wake me up at 4. I have a flight to catch at 5. So it was almost 4. So he responded. Communication, you send a message and it has to be returned.
Yes.
So he wrote, my dear husband, it is 4 a.m. Please wake up. And he pushed the note there.
And she goes to sleep.
So there's this story of this couple. They had just brushed shoulders that evening, and the following morning, the husband had to travel to catch a flight at 5 a.m. in the morning. So he since they are not communicating with the wife, he writes a note and places it where the wife, next to where the wife sleeps. And the note reads, I have a flight to catch at 5 a.m. Please wake me up at 3 a.m. So the wife comes, you know, she hadn't really realized there is a note there, so she sleeps. Then in the middle of the night, she wakes up to do her things and realizes that there is a note there which reads, I have a flight to catch at 5 a.m. Please wake me up at 3 a.m. So akaamka, it was almost 3 a.m. So he wrote the note back. She wrote the note back. Jesus Christ. Okay, let's leave this story.
No. She wrote the message back.
So she writes back, my dear husband, it is almost 3 a.m. in the morning. Please wake up. Na akaeka note hapo kando ya bwana yake. So the husband wakes up at around 7, and you know, she's mad at the wife. So being furious, he had to confront the wife. I requested you to wake me up. What happened? The wife told her, no, I did. I woke you up. I wrote for you a note. That is 3 a.m. in the morning. Please wake up. And you never responded. So I believe unforgiveness, as you say, you know, it breaks barriers of communication.
Yes.
And you can't progress, as people living together.
Yes. So communication here is very important. So lack of forgiveness blocks communication. And in a marriage without communication, there is no relationship.
Yeah, there's no relationship.
No marriage.
There's no love. There's no.
In that case,
they're just
like,
neighbors.
We are neighbors in the home. Yeah. So, and if forgiveness does not happen, then the second thing that is affected is relationship itself.
How is that?
Relationships here is that you know, if we have an issue between or among us, or between the two of us, what will happen is that having lived together for a long time, I have mastered how you walk. Okay? When I hear those footsteps, I say that Samuel coming.
This is Sam.
Yeah, he's coming. So what I'll do is that I will find my way.
Okay.
Or if you are coming from upstairs, and I'm coming upstairs, what I will do is I will hide somewhere. You come down, you have your way, and then I will go. Okay? Because the relationship has a problem. Or maybe in mass. I think mass or our services or our worship services are the best place to demonstrate this. We happen to be sitting together, okay? And there is this time for a sign of peace. Because we have issues.
We are not in peace.
We are not at peace.
We can't give that sign.
What will happen is that at that time, you drop the pen intentionally. So that you bend to pick the pen. And before you wake up, we have already past that stage. Or what we will do also, instead of greeting me, we turn to greet another person. This is a kind of hypocrisy, isn't it? The relationship has a problem. Or rather, you will find that we cannot share deep things. So we have a mechanical relationship. It is not a relationship based on the true identity of who we are, but just mechanical. Okay? It's like we're existing saying, you live kwako, ninakaa kwangu, nakaa kwako, hakuna shida. Unakula kwako, nakula kwangu, there is no problem. And today people will say, at the end of the day, njia kwenda mbinguni haipiti kwenu.
I'll find my way there.
I'll find my way. You see, ama Mungu sio jirani yako, or is not your grandmother. You see, these kind of issues, they actually tell you that there is a problem with the relationship. And if forgiveness does not happen, and then it moves to the third level, is that lack of forgiveness then affects your mind. And when your mind is affected, the power to make sound judgment in your life is impaired. Okay? So, for example, A and B and C are people working in the same institution or a company. A is the boss. B and C are subjects. Okay? And then we have D. Is another subject in the company. So A is the boss. B and C and D are subjects. Now, A and B notice a problem with D. Sorry, B and C notice a problem with D. And so the two, A, B and C, come to tell A at the same time about the same person using the same phrasing. But B and A are enemies. And then C and A are friends. So whatever C says is correct. And whatever B says, because it's an enemy, is wrong. But remember, they are commenting about the same subject. That is D. So what is happening here? Truth becomes subjective. Instead of being what is being said, it becomes who is saying. In other words, in simple terms, lack of forgiveness gives us the specs through which we look at people. It gives us an attitude. It is like a kind of a filter through which we see reality, through which we filter people. So when I look at you, I don't see you objectively as who you are today, but I see you according to what you did many years ago. Okay, in the past, because your mind has a problem. And so I could be having a problem with my dress, and you say, hey Peter, you have a problem with your shirt. How will I interpret that? I'll say, umekuwa ukinitafuta kila siku.
Amenipata sasa.
Amenipata sasa. I knew you are looking for me every day, isn't it? But actually, I could be having a problem. It is true that I have a problem. But the fact that it is coming from my enemy, perceived enemy, there is nothing good that can come from my enemy. Because my relationship, my mind, the power to make sound judgment is impaired. Now, if forgiveness does not happen, then it comes to a very dangerous level that lack of forgiveness becomes the door of curses, or the doors of curses.
Wow, interesting. How is that?
You see, when you look at any tree, assuming that tree there, you see, when you look at that tree, what you can see is, you see the stem, you see the branches, but you don't see the roots. So the branches belong to the same stem, but each branch is taking its own course. Okay, each branch is taking its own direction. So I'm using that to show sometimes the confusion that happens in the family. So you find that we have the parents, they are okay, and then you realize we have children have a problem, and you ask yourself, what really happened? Sometimes it could be generational curses. Perhaps the grandparents said something wrong or something bad, or uttered a curse to the parents. Instead of affecting the parents, it affects the children. So instead of affecting the stem, it affects the branches. Okay? And so the roots could be our grandparents. These are what we call generational curses in our families. And that's why you hear people talking of, let us heal the family tree. Okay, now let us talk. Let's put it in a biblical context. You see, when you look at the book of, when you read the book of Genesis chapter 49, this is a story concerning the 12 sons of Jacob. Okay, but I will focus on the 4.
Who and who?
The first one is Reuben.
Reuben.
The second one is Simeon. The third one is Levi. And the fourth one is Judah. Okay, now Genesis chapter 49, verse 1 to 9. We can divide it into 2. And we say chapter 49, verse 1 to 7. Lack of forgiveness are doors of curses. And then from verse 8 to 9, we say forgiveness are doors of blessings. The firstborn son of Jacob is Reuben. And I think the culture of the Jews and the Africans is more or less the same. The firstborn boy child in a family gets the upper hand. So in case the parent is not there, or the father of the family is not there, the firstborn child takes the place of the father. Okay, it's like the one who inherits or who takes the inheritance of the family. Now, when you look at that book, how Jacob describes Reuben is so sweet. He says, Reuben, you are my firstborn. Reuben, you are the first fruit of my manhood. Reuben, you are the cause of my joy. Reuben, you are the cause of my strength. Reuben, you are so brilliant, okay?
But.
And then he spoils at the end, but you will never excel. What is the problem? When you look at the book of Genesis again, chapter 34, you will realize that, not chapter 34, but you will realize that Reuben took mpango wa kando ya baba yake called Bilia. And that's why he gives a reason. Because you went into the coach, my coach, or you defiled my bed with my concubine, okay? Mpango wa kando. So at the end, this boy is cursed.
Receives the curse.
The second one and the third one, that is Simeon and Levi, receives the same curse. Simeon and Levi, they had a sister called Dinah. Dinah was raped. You remember that story?
Yeah.
Okay? And so all the sons of Jacob forgave, except these two brothers. So they revenged by killing everybody, okay, in that family, in that village. So because of anger, Jacob cursed them because they used the weapons of violence to commit, or the upanga to commit violence. Jacob cursed them and said, anger be upon you. Anger be upon you, which means you will be men of anger. You will never use reason. You will only use what? Anger. Okay? And I think when you look at, if you assess Moses, Moses is a man of anger, right? I only came to realize that Moses actually comes from, when you follow the genealogy of Moses, he comes from the family of Levi. Exodus chapter 2. He's born from the family of Levi, a man who has been cursed by anger. So, and he tells them, let my name not come into your company. Never mention my name because of anger. So the man does not forgive. He curses the children. Now that is from verse 1 to 7. And I want us now to look at verse 8 to 9, that forgiveness becomes the doors of blessing.
This is where Judah comes.
This is where Judah comes in. So this is where Judah comes in, from verse 8 to 9. And Judah is described with around four things. And the first one is that he says, Judah, your brothers will praise you. The second one he says, Judah is like a lion. Then the third one he says, the scepter of power will never depart from the hands of Judah until it comes to the one to whom it belongs, and before whom every knee shall bow in obedience. What is the outcome of this blessing? It is when you find Jesus, who is called the Lion of Judah, the King of Kings, and from the letter, St. Paul's letter to the Philippians chapter 2, from verse 6 to 11, that beautiful song, you realize that every knee shall bow before,
and every tongue confess
that Jesus Christ is the
Lord.
So what are we trying to say here? When we say forgiveness brings healing, we are trying to say that, for example, the pain that I inflicted on you, you can demand that I pay you heavily in order to obtain justice. But no amount of money will buy me from your neighborhood. I will pay you, but every day you wake up, you will see me. I'm the first person to meet. Every time you go out of your house, I'm the first person to meet at the gate. If it is in the community, we eat on the same table. Okay? So every time you look at me, the memories become alive. So although I pay you, but the pain is still there. It is only forgiveness that can do away with this pain.
Interesting. Let me just contravene.
Yes.
There's a common phrase that forgive and forget, but then there are people who say no, forgive but don't forget. What's your view on that, and what should be done, in your opinion?
Actually, to say that you forgive and forget is not practical.
It's not practical.
Okay? Because every day you see me, you will remember. However much you try. But I think the phrase forgive and forget means forgive the wrong and remember the person in that the wrong I did does not become a criteria to judge me. When you forgive me, there is a new relationship built. And so my relationship or my dealing with you has nothing or has little to do with what I did to you in the past. So that not every time when I fail today, you say, you see, you remember what you did. This is what you did to me. It means you have not forgiven. But if you forgive me and you accept me the way I am, and then we move on, we say, no, let us move on. Let us not hold on this thing. Okay? Then that is what we mean by forgive and forget. Okay? So, to summarize the point that forgiveness brings healing in our lives is that there is power in the tongue. In the tongue. And I think when you look at the book of Proverbs, for example, chapter 18, verse 18, there is power on the tongue. It says, the tongue has no bone, but it can crush the wall. The tongue has no bone, but it has removed powerful people from thrones, or the kings. The tongue has destroyed so many families. Okay? Why? Because the tongue has 4 powers. The tongue can bless. Number 2, the tongue can curse. The tongue can destroy, but the tongue can also build. And that is why if you want to encourage me, you will use the words, the tongue. If you want to destroy me, you will use the tongue. Jamaa anakuambia neno mpaka unamesa panadol. It completely destroys you, it dismantles you, it destroys your day. And especially when it comes to parents. You know, when you are angry, you really have to mind your language, because the word that comes from a parent, especially speaking to his young ones or her young ones, it is really poisonous. It can ruin or it can build the life of the young ones. And this is what I see in families. A small kid comes to you and tells you, brother, this is what my mom told me and I will never forgive her. This is what my dad told me and I will never forgive him. Okay? And the boy or the girl grows up with that. And even when he is married, the same he or she carries in marriage. Okay? And I will tend to hate a person or a gender, for example. If it is my father who told me like that, I will hate the male gender. Okay? If it is my mother, I will hate the female gender. And this is how now we impact. It becomes like it is the second DNA in a child or in a person. So forgiveness brings healing. The third one is that forgiveness empowers.
Forgiveness empowers.
Or forgiveness shows courage.
How is that?
Or you can say forgiveness gives the second chance to begin again. Sometimes I look at the story of a woman who was caught in adultery. The Gospel of John chapter 8, 1 to 11. You know, the Pharisees brought this lady to Jesus and they said, Moses told us, commanded us, not told us, commanded us that such a woman is liable to be stoned to death. What do you say? And Jesus bent down to write on the ground. And when they insisted, he straightened up and said, okay, among you, who has never sinned? They looked at each other and they were so honest. In other words, Jesus invited them to introspection. And they dropped the stones and they left the sin one after the other, from the eldest to the youngest. And they left the woman and Jesus asked him, nobody has condemned you? And she said, nobody, sir. And Jesus said,
Neither
go and sin no more. Second chance. But here, you know, it invites you to something. This story, whenever I read, it invites me to something.
What's that?
And what is this? I've discovered that when you point a finger like this, there is no pain anywhere. When I'm accusing you, you Sam, you. Because when I'm accusing you, I will not say you. It is this man here. He's a sinner. He has done ABCD. There is no pain anywhere. But at the same position, when I force the same finger to face me, there is pain in the joint.
Okay.
Very practical. In other words, what
Hey, try it out.
Yes.
Try it out. Utasikia uchungu hapa.
Yeah, there is pain here and here because that it is easy to judge the mistake of another person, but it needs courage to condemn yourself. And so, what is the courage here? It has so many senses that we can interpret that. But basically, I believe that a mistake of another person is like a mirror to see my own vulnerability, to say that I am also a human being and I am capable of doing the same thing that this person has done. And so in this context, forgiveness arises from a realization that we are human beings and not God. And as human beings, we can hurt each other. Okay? So if you hurt me, it's an invitation for me to realize that I am human, not a robot. And as a human, I am liable to hurt, and I'm also liable to be hurt. So these people dropped stones. What are the stones? I can call them, they dropped the charges against the woman, the accusation against the woman. That after realizing that you are also human, and after realizing that all of us, we are beggars before the judgment seat or the seat of mercy, and then there is no need to begin judging or accusing the other person. Because it's a realization that before God, nobody is perfect. We are all sinners. A story is told of a monk in a monastery. You know, we are monks.
Yeah, we are monks.
And
we are monks. I'm a monk. Ingo is kudanganye.
Yes. It's a Carmelite monk and I'm a Benedictine. So, a young monk committed a mistake in a monastery. And the elders came together and decided to send away the monk, the young monk. But the abbot does not live in that community. So after deliberating, they said, we have to send a word so that the abbot comes to send this man away. So at first, the abbot was unwilling to come and send away this man. Okay? But when they insisted, the abbot was very wise. He took a bag or a sack. Then he filled it with dry sand and then made holes on it. And then he carried it on his back. So when he came into the monastery, people went to welcome him at the gate. They realized that this man was carrying a sack of dry sand, and that sand was leaking behind him. And they asked, Abbot, what are you doing? What is the meaning of this? Why is it that this sand is leaking behind you? He said, you see, these are my sins that are leaking behind me, and I cannot see, and I'm here to judge this one. A mistake of another person is an invitation to realize our own vulnerability. And like the attitude of Jesus, go and not sin again. When I forgive you, genuinely, I forgive you. I give you another chance to begin again. Okay? I put a value on your head again. And so you begin life more courageously, knowing that I am forgiven. And so in a Christian context, why are we proud Christians? Because we are forgiven victims.
Wow. We are proud Christians because you are forgiven victims.
That's all. So if Jesus never died, then we will be prisoners of the devil. And so our home will be hell. It's as simple as that.
No wonder the first thing he did after his death is to go and open the gates of Hades.
Yes, those guys
for those who had already left before him.
So forgiveness, in short, it empowers us. And more practically, if it's in the family and we have not forgiven somebody, the power to express himself or herself freely will not be there.
Now, we have talked about the importance of forgiveness and what forgiveness does.
There is one we have forgiven.
Oh, there is one we've forgotten. Okay.
We said there are four.
Oh, there are
because
four.
We have said forgiveness sets people free. Then the second one, forgiveness brings healing. And the third one we have said, forgiveness
gives you an opportunity to begin
It
again.
empowers.
It empowers.
Shows courage. Okay? And the fourth one that I want to finish with is that forgiveness looks ahead.
Forgiveness looks ahead.
The focus of forgiveness
It's not
is
in the
ahead.
past.
So it has little to do with the past. Okay? If I cut you, I leave the mark. There is nothing you can undo to make your face look like nothing happened. It will be a constant reminder that I did something to you. Or if something happened, something bad happened to you in 2020, you cannot go back and undo it. It happened and that's all. Okay? So forgiveness has nothing to do with the past. Forgiveness blinds you to see the importance of me in your present life. And that's why you have the courage to tell me that you don't need me, and even God does not reside on your compound and all those things.
And in fact, you know, there's a song for that. There's this song, I think it's called Ndio Yako by Gloria Moliro. It begins by saying, ingalikuwa Mungu anauliza mwanadamu jinsi ya kumtendea mwingine, singekuwa penye niko. But since God does not need your consultation, I'm blessed.
That's very funny, but it's very true, yeah? Yeah. You see, so, and then, but forgiveness has a lot to do with the life to come. Let me use a very simple expression to explain this point. Any vehicle is designed in such a way that the side mirrors are very small, but the windscreen is very big.
Wow.
Okay? Why? Because
the focus is ahead.
The focus should be ahead.
Not behind.
An accident occurring from the front is more dangerous and is very rare to survive than the one that occurs from behind. So you need a very small side mirror to see where you are coming from or what is coming behind you, and a very wide windscreen to see where you are going and what is coming from ahead. Okay? So what does this mean? That the more you focus ahead, the more the past disappears and eventually it is no more. People who don't forgive, people who find it difficult to forgive, is the opposite of the car or a vehicle. A very big side mirror and a small windscreen. Why? They remember in details who did what, when, why, where, who was there. 101 reasons as why they will never forgive. But they have no single reasons or reason as how they will need you in future. Okay? So, assuming you are in your family or in a society or in the community, you have 10 people and 10 people hurt you. Okay? And then you forgive them. In future, when you have a problem, this will be 10 opportunities to help you. Right? But when you don't forgive them, these are the first 10 people to avoid. So in essence, we are saying forgiveness widens the opportunities in future. Lack of forgiveness narrows the opportunities in future. But there is also another dimension of forgiveness. And this is what I will call accepting things and move on. You know, at the age of 60 years or 70 or 80, you are supposed to be kuka. You are supposed to be a retired man. And so a retired lion seated somewhere in the corner. You are looking at the small girls and boys jumping in the world. Okay? If at all you have accepted that I have grown old, I have transited from childhood, from adulthood, I'm old. If you don't accept that, you will have what you call identity crisis. At that time, you will be actively hunting the young girls.
That's true.
And so, there comes a time, there comes a time in your life when you regret over what you never did when you had time than what you did when you had time. And this is what you will say, I wish I knew. Imagine you hurt me today and you don't forgive me. Okay? And then I die. That memory will haunt you if your conscience is alive. So to sum up, what should I say? Without forgiveness, it is very impossible to be religious in a strict sense. You can imagine planning evil against me and you come to prayer you open your breviary as a religious man, and then you find a psalm says, here is one who is pregnant with malice, is about to give birth to evil.
You know, some of those psalms, if at all, as you say, your conscience is alive,
Yes.
most of them intimidate the human in us and call us to, to that divine union with God. Because at the end of the day, prayer is all about connecting with the divine.
Yes.
So by the time you're opening that breviary to read, God reminds you, hey, my friend, kuna kitu umefanya pale mbaya.
Yes.
Ebu take care of it first.
Or even our Father. There is somewhere you have to say, forgive us as we forgive those who sin against us, isn't it? If you have not forgiven, how do you say that part? You either mute
Or
you
unakohoa,
simply
umalize kwanza.
then you pick up from somewhere. So this is why I think forgiveness is very paramount. Forgiveness is very important in our lives, so that it makes us truly human, so that it makes us truly and genuinely witnesses of Christ in life.
Wow.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Now, just to sum up quickly, we've identified the problem, we've identified how intense it is. So
Yes.
what's the way forward? What's the solution? How do you have some steps somebody can follow in case they're struggling with forgiving people? So they want to follow these steps so that at least they can, they can be freed from this prison of unforgiveness. How can one go about that?
I would say I don't have a defined formula. In fact, it will be an illusion if I said you have to do this and then followed by this. But this is what I think. That the first thing in the process of forgiveness is to identify that actually I am hurt. That is number one. So you don't deny. Forgiveness is not the suppression of the feelings. So you have to identify that I am hurt. I'm truly hurt. Number two is a realization that I need to be at peace with myself, with my neighbor, and so by implication with God. Okay? So forgiveness does not arise from the need of the other person to be at peace. It is from you, the need for you to be at peace with yourself, with the neighbor, and with God. And then from there, it is also, the third one will be a realization that I don't live in a vacuum. I don't live in an island. I am part and parcel of the people. Okay? In the family. My life only is meaningful when it is lived in the context of others. And so, if lack of forgiveness is the barrier, I have to make an effort to remove this barrier so that I actually become a human being in a full sense. Why? Because we were created to be in communion with others, in relationship with others. So, and then the last one, not the last one, but actually should always be in the mind, is prayer. I've realized that there is power in prayer. When you take courage to pray for your perceived enemy, there is power that is infused in you, and you find it so easy to approach the other person. However, there is also a possibility that the person you intend to reconcile with is hostile. When I look at you, you're masculine. Huh? You are stronger than me. If I realize that your personality might not easily welcome the dialogue, what I will do, I'll have to look for your friend, a person you are able to listen to. And I talk to him, hey, this is what I want to do. I want to talk to this man. I want to restore my relationship. I really value it. Please help me meet this one. And then let this person become neutral. And then when there is now a discussion or a kind of dialogue, there should not be a justification. Okay? Because when I come with the mentality of accusing you, then you will also devise a method to counter, isn't it, my accusation. So instead of healing or reconciling between the two of us, again we will spark some kind of pain. And then the fight becomes new again. And then we revive the whole problem. Okay? So each and every party, or the two of us, the two parties to be reconciled, should be on the accused side.
Okay.
Yes.
Fun. I hope we can both agree, we can all agree that there's no growth without forgiveness.
Sure.
There is no growth without forgiveness. Brother Peter, thank you so much for talking about this issue. You know, when you talk of growth, you normally think of, success, doing stuff for me, but we never think about stuff for others.
Yes.
Thank you for coming up with this topic, because I believe, in as much as we do forgiveness for ourselves, it's also for others.
Yeah, sure.
And as they say, no man is an island. You exist within a context of people. Do you have any final sentence?
Final sentence.
Final sentence.
Forgiveness is a permanent ministry.
Forgiveness is a permanent ministry.
In other words, it's not something you do today and then tomorrow and then the other day.
Everything is something.
It is something that is part and parcel of your life as much as you are living. That's what I can say.
Oh, Brother Peter, thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
I really appreciate your time. I hope to see you again in the same show.
Thank you.
And you're very resourceful. There's this, whatever people call it wisdom, others call it intelligence, others call it wit, but whatever it is, it's just it's just oozing out of you.
Wow.
And I'm blessed to have you around me, because come on, you're part of what is making content for me. Asante sana. So asante sana.
Thank you,
Hope to
brother.
see you again.
Thank you so much.
Asante.
Yeah.
Okay.